Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2020 State of the City Address with Mayor Tim Flynn. I'm Nancy Lindholm, President and CEO of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce. We're pleased to present this address to the business community today, as we have every year, in an effort to keep our job creators informed about the successes and challenges the City of Oxnard faces. In turn, we appreciate local government listening to our collective voices when businesses face challenges starting up, maintaining a workforce, or expanding to bring more opportunities for our residents. Today, both government and the business community face greater obstacles than any of us have ever imagined. As it has been for more than 100 years, please know that the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce is here to assist in getting our local economy back on track as we persevere during this pandemic. Certainly, Mayor Flynn has plenty of topics to cover in this surreal time we're living in, but before he gets started, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors for today, and we sincerely thank them for their support. Our title sponsors today are Procter & Gamble and Southern California Edison. Our major sponsors, Blue Enterprises LLC and the Port of Hueneme. Supporting sponsors, DCH Auto Group, Dignity Health St. John's Hospital, Gold Coast Ambulance, Kaiser Permanente, UCLA Health, and Ventura County Credit Union. And again, we greatly appreciate the support of these businesses and organizations. Before I introduce our speaker, I want to explain the format for today's event. We will receive Mayor Flynn's presentation first, and then, with time permitting, go into Q&A. You can post inquiries into the questions feature at any time, and you will find that on the right side of your screen. It's the conversation bubble with a question mark in the center of it. And now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce today's keynote speaker, Mayor Timothy B. Flynn. Tim Flynn was first elected as Oxnard Mayor in November 2012. He was re-elected as mayor in 2014, 2016, and most recently in 2018. He also served as a council member from 2004 through 2008 and 2010 through 2012 before being elected as mayor. After earning his bachelor's degree in political science from the University of California, Santa Barbara, Mr. Flynn worked as an intern for an arms control and national security issues interest group in Washington, D.C. Later, he worked for the Congressional Research Service of the Library of Congress. Continuing his education at Friedrich Wilhelm University in Bonn, West Germany, Mr. Flynn obtained an MA in International Affairs after receiving a Rotary International graduate fellowship to study. He then worked briefly in the title insurance industry before earning a secondary teaching credential in social science from San Francisco State University. For 25 years, Mr. Flynn taught German and social science in the Oxnard Union High School District and political science at Oxnard College before retiring from teaching in 2018. It's my pleasure to turn it over to our mayor, Tim Flynn.
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy, and thank you for all those that are attending. I want to get my slideshow up, and we'll start here. Here we go. And I just want to double check to make sure everybody can see the slideshow. Okay.
Yes, we can see your photo, and we can also see the slideshow. Thank you, Mayor. Please
very
proceed.
Good. Okay, thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for attending today. As Nancy just mentioned, these are unprecedented times, at least in our lifetime. And the goal here, in the city of Oxnard is to reassure you as business owners, members of education and government, and community organizations that the city of Oxnard is doing everything we possibly can to get through this pandemic. And I want to say to start that we are going to get through this and the economy is going to rebound. So I want to talk about that with you here in this very short afternoon presentation. So the theme of the State of the City address this year is rebuilding, reinvesting, and revitalizing. And it's very important that we talk about rebuilding, revitalizing, and reinvesting in the context that we have faced these unprecedented challenges. First, if we start with the coronavirus, it's obviously a public health crisis. I know that about 150,000 Americans have now succumbed to this pandemic. It's caused us to enter into an economic recession. And a lot of times mayors don't like to talk about bad news, want to focus on the good parts. But the June figures for the economy just came out, and it's really unprecedented. The economy shrunk in the second quarter by 9.5%, and that would be a 32% decline over an annual basis. So that's the worst thing I'm going to say here today, is just that we've entered an economic recession, and the goal is to get out of that recession. And especially you want to know as business owners what we're doing here locally. So our efforts have been very focused on helping businesses safely reopen and have employees go back to work in a safe work environment. So what the pandemic has done is it's caused a statewide crisis, and the economic recession has obviously affected California just as much as the rest of the nation. And we've had a real crisis prior to entering the pandemic with homelessness, and I'll talk about that in a second. And we are working hard to find solutions to many of the problems that face us, not just homelessness, just I mentioned, but our overall fiscal situation. But there is good news on the fiscal front. And in the last 2 years, the City Council has made some very difficult decisions to cut the budget. And the previous fiscal year, we actually laid off employees. First time in the time I've served on the City Council that we've actually laid people off. And we were on a path for the last 10 or 20 years of unsustainable spending, and it caused many deficits over many years. And so we're dealing with that now under the leadership of the city manager, Alexander Nguyen, and he just celebrated his 2-year anniversary. So I can no longer call him the new city manager. So we also have a need for new revenues, and I'm the chairman of the Finance and Governance Committee. And this past current fiscal year that just started July 1st, we passed a budget of $140 million for the city's general fund. And just to place that in proper context, $140 million for a size of a city the size of almost 250,000 residents, our revenue should be closer to $200 million. So your success means our success. And if we're $50 million approximately short every year to provide essential services to the public, making sure that business and the priority of getting people back to work is the #1 priority. So how did we support Oxnard residents? Well, we had a lot of events at distributing food distribution, and that was not just for the public at large that had a need, but also for seniors. And so those hot meals were distributed and are being distributed. And one of the ways we were able to repurpose restaurants and those places that had to close because of the pandemic is actually contracts for them to provide those senior meals. So in particular, we provided support to local businesses. Some of you were recipients of that support. And it really was trying to help businesses navigate through all of the various aid packages. And many of you know about it, PPP, and all the federal, state, and local support packages from the county of Ventura all the way down. And also that included helping and guiding businesses and their employees through applying for unemployment benefits and making sure that they also applied for the county grant program. We launched an antibody testing site right here in the city of Oxnard, and that was together with a coalition of St. John's Regional Medical Center and Abbott Laboratories, and we were also supported by UCLA Health. And that was took a lot of innovation by the fire department. And here we see right here a person being tested by the fire department for antibody testing, and that facilitated a lot of the scientific research and the estimates of the spread of the virus in the community. So I mentioned earlier, one of our primary issues is trying to address the homeless issue. Many of you know that the latest count, there are 1,600 homeless in Ventura County. 2/3 of those homeless reside in Oxnard and Ventura. And contrary to what some might think, and that is that Oxnard and Ventura both have shelters and are doing what we can to address the homeless crisis, it's not because of that support that we have 2/3 of the homeless. It's that in the summer and the winter months, the climate along the coastal areas is most conducive to living outdoors. So what are we doing specifically to address the homeless crisis? Number one, if you look to the far left, we have a temporary 24-hour shelter, and that is at the National Guard Armory. In the past, the National Guard Armory was only open for 3 months during the winter months when it's cold and it's rainy. It serves up to 100 homeless individuals. Well, now it is a 24-hour shelter, so they're no longer asked to leave at 6 in the morning. And that's right, even during the winter months, it didn't matter if it was raining or how cold it was, people would have to leave. So now they can stay there 24 hours a day. What's really important about it is that we decreased the unsheltered population from 455 individuals down to 379 individuals. And we actually placed, which is a success, 76 of those individuals in housing. And I attended an event in South Oxnard for the opening of a veterans home. And one of those veterans I know specifically who spoke and addressed those in attendance was a veteran who served this great nation of ours. This veteran was homeless, and now that veteran has housing. So just being able to say that, it gives me goosebumps to do so. So in addition to that, we have 6 Oxnard Police Department officers that were assigned as homeless liaison officers to assist with the many issues of encampments, and it goes on and on. And I might say that the city council, because of the inordinate concentration of the homeless in the downtown, specifically in and around Plaza Park, that the city council took action to not allow encampments anywhere in the downtown area. And because of that, doing business in the downtown has improved, but we still have a long way to go. And finally, now we're creating a permanent homeless shelter. The city of Ventura has already done that. They're going to house 55 individuals on the bottom floor, and on the middle floor, they're going to have social service agencies, mental health, that are going to directly help people. And this is an important thing to say. Homeless shelters and even permanent housing should not be a handout. It should be a hand up. We have 700 or up to 700 homeless individuals in the city of Oxnard. It's my intention, it's the city council's intention, and the government to get them help, to get mental health help, to get social services, whatever it is that they need, to give them a hand up and get them on to becoming productive, whether that's through mental health treatment and ongoing mental health treatment, and or having a place to live so that they can go through job training and eventually transition back to the economy. So let's talk about Oxnard's finances. It hasn't been a highlight over the last several years that Oxnard has had fiscal challenges, and we have been very much intent on making sure that we live within our means. But sometimes people might question that and say, well, if you're running deficits, how are you living within your means? Well, expenses are going up disproportionate to the revenues that we have. And that's obviously not just a first and foremost objective, as I said at the very beginning, that we focus on business and generating more revenue for the city, but it's addressing this fiscal deficit. We've had to make cuts, and they were very, very painful. Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez said recently that one of the most difficult challenges she's ever faced in the time that she's served on the city council were those cuts. And I don't think there's anybody here on the city council that didn't feel the same. It was very, very difficult to make these major cuts. So as many of you know, we had a series of auditors take a look at city finances. And the bottom line is that with all of the findings, in fact, when the auditors came into the city of Oxnard, they had said They had never seen anything like it, and anyone that served in government had never seen so many findings. So the previous city manager, Greg Nyhoff, and especially this current city manager, and our finance department, led by Kevin Riper and Donna Ventura as assistant CEO, have placed this first and foremost. And basically, a lot of the findings had to do with a lack of internal controls. So for those of you that are familiar with, or you might be accountants, you know that internal controls are an essential part of accounting, and they're an essential part of maintaining the financial integrity of a city. So the auditor's reports most recently are that we have no material weaknesses for the first time since 2014, which is a vast improvement. And finally, mayors are always, and mayors and people that run companies and large companies are always going to try to present a rosy picture, but that could be argued is subjective. To get an objective view of the city's finances is Standard & Poor's, the rating agencies, the credit rating agencies. And we have now an improved bond outlook because of the very difficult decisions the City Council has taken, and affirmed that the city's existing A issuer credit rating, and you can see there the various credit ratings, our goal is to have a AAA credit rating, and we're on the path to doing that, not only because of the sound leadership of the City Council to deal with our fiscal situation, but the city manager, Alexander Nguyen, and our finance staff that is making very difficult decisions, but we're on the path to recovery. So let's talk about the actions that we need to take to rebuild, reinvest, and revitalize Oxnard and Ventura County. So I'd like to start here by talking a little bit about, I was a history teacher for 25 years, and I can't get away from history, and history can't get away from me. But I like to start about how one community, Santa Barbara, California, rebuilt themselves after the 1925 earthquake. And what you see here is a picture that I like to kind of use as a parallel, where you see the old courthouse there to the left, which has cracks running down the middle. Most of downtown Santa Barbara was leveled due to the 1925 earthquake, and you can see the Hotel California just there to the right. But Santa Barbara and its leaders had a vision for Santa Barbara, and when they rebuilt Santa Barbara's economy, they decided that they were going to do it right. And it was part of a movement at the turn of the century that was called the America Beautiful movement, which was to try to rebuild cities with the highest standards for architectural attainment and or integrity. And through that, it was supposed to uplift people. In fact, it was a transition away from focusing just on public housing and addressing poverty, but focused on architecture and building construction to beautify and to uplift the spirits of people. And this is what we had after 1929. To the left there, the Santa Barbara Courthouse, which contains my birth record and my parents' marriage record, who were married in Santa Barbara, and I was born in Santa Barbara. And then we see the Hotel California rebuilt there to the right, as well as the downtown. And Santa Barbara today, as we all know, is one of the top destinations anywhere in the state of California, anywhere in the United States of America, because those leaders had a vision when they rebuilt their community. So to rebuild, these are things that we must consider. We must consider that's vital, county and city leadership. And what's important in that county and leadership role is we need to involve the community early on. I'll be talking here in a second about something crucial in this area, but the community and civic engagement is so much a part of being a good government and getting and moving the economy in the right direction. And finally, it's about, through leadership, forming more partnerships between the county, between the city, between nonprofits and the business community. We need to focus on those community partnerships to rebuild this economy. So let's talk about, first and foremost, Fisherman's Wharf. This is a nice photograph of Fisherman's Wharf, but if you got up close there, you know that Fisherman's Wharf has been in a state of decline over the last maybe 25, maybe even 30 years. And so most recently, the City Council had a decision to make about a plan to redevelop Fisherman's Wharf. That plan did not have the support of the local community. In fact, it did not in any way generate or inspire the community. And so the city council was asked whether or not it would modify its local coastal plan to allow that specific project, in particular housing. And the city council turned that down. But my top economic development objective as mayor of the city of Oxnard is to get this Fisherman's Wharf project back on track. And the county, to their credit, is now doing it right. They're going to start involving the community as early as the month of September. And we're going to try to have a plan through that involvement of the community, working together with business, working together with developers, working together with the community and county and city leadership to get Fisherman's Wharf rebuilt. So our next project to rebuild Oxnard's economy has to do with the downtown. For those of you that grew up here in Ventura County, or you might have grown up in Oxnard, there was a time where Oxnard's downtown was the premier downtown of all of Ventura County. Communities in the East County in particular, and even Camarillo, were very, very small communities. They didn't have large downtowns. They didn't have the kind of amenities that Oxnard's downtown had. Ventura kind of came somewhat close, but Oxnard's downtown was premier. And we can see that by the traffic here. These photos here at JCPenney's, Grams, men's and boys wear, and Pete's Palomino Room, all the places in downtown that made downtown so special. And today, this is a view of downtown, and we know we don't see the traffic, we don't see the cars, and we see a lot of for lease signs in downtown. And so one of the very primary focuses of the city manager when he first came to the city was to, and I sat down with him, and he sat down with other council members, is, Mr. Nguyen, we have to get downtown Oxnard rebuilt. And so what is that going to look like? Last year, I presented to you this plan that surrounds Plaza Park. And so to the right is the North Plaza, and to the left to the left is the North Plaza, and to the right is the South Plaza. Our plan is to start with redeveloping downtown in these areas. And what specifically, and let me just go back here, and what specifically we're looking to do is create an environment that will inspire people. This here is kind of a rendition, an idea about what we want to do in the plaza. Now, what I can report is that Mr. Nguyen was able to attract a high caliber developer from the Bay Area. That developer spent a lot of money and a lot of time developing the old Social Security building. Unfortunately, the pandemic sidelined their intentions to develop in downtown Oxnard. So right now, that's no longer a viable project, or the project and the concept is viable, but this specific developer has opted out. We're looking to reattract them and get them back to Oxnard. They've had to refocus and retool themselves and decide what are they going to do, because as a developer, they're predominantly involved in rental properties. And as we know, many people haven't been able to afford their rents. So what's going to be fundamental for this transition for the downtown is focusing on the fact that we already have the infrastructure of a transportation center. We know that the bus system and the public transportation system is vastly underutilized, not only in Oxnard, but in Ventura County. But we have one of the best transportation centers anywhere in the Tri-County areas. And that transportation center is also underutilized, even though there are commuter trains that go to downtown LA each day. When we're looking to attract people with disposable income to the downtown, we're looking for them to locate that so that they can utilize the transportation center to commute to those positions, maybe in Burbank, Los Angeles, et cetera. So, I want to go back here a little bit, and sorry about that. There's a picture here. This is a project, however, that is going forward. And in fact, right now as we speak, if I'm not understanding, the developer of this project is in a conference with our community development and planning director, Jeffrey Lambert. This is the Billboard Lofts at 800 South A Street. It's a proposed 5-story podium building. It's going to have 55 apartments. 44 of those are going to be market rate apartments. Again, we're focused on disposable income, as well as 6 affordable units. They're all going to be condominiums, and we're really excited that this project is moving forward. So the next theme here is reinvestment. And what you see here are the youth of Oxnard. And this is at Pacifica High School. This was an event celebrating the state championship of the Pacifica High School football team. And the youth of this community, we have to focus on the fact that by 2040, it is estimated that half of all the current jobs will be gone. What are we going to do to invest in the younger people? And that has a lot to do with job training. So when the city manager came and he and I met, we sat down, I told him about my interest in 21st century jobs. He said, Mayor, we have to get an employee pipeline. So one of the very first things that he did and the staff did is reached out to local businesses, larger, medium, and lower level businesses or smaller businesses to reach out to them to see what were their employment needs and better identify what those needs are with the kinds of skills that are going to be provided. So about 6 months ago, we brought everybody together in one room. We brought the businesses together along with the president of Oxnard College and of course city government. And we focus specifically on those job training skills that these younger people are going to need. And I'm really excited to say that we're moving forward with that, not only with Oxnard College, but with a variety of entities throughout Ventura County, including labor unions and their apprenticeship programs. And we're really excited to say that we're moving forward on that. One of the findings, surprisingly enough, is that many of the employers said that many of the younger people lack soft skills, which are interviewing. So what are soft skills? Soft skills are being able to think critically, being able to work together in a group, being able to present yourself and speak, being able to write a memo, etc. So we're very much focused on that and getting those youth retrained. One of the key components of economic growth and a reinvestment will be in looking at Oxnard Airport and Camarillo Airport, two of Ventura County's airports. Today, for a population of 845,000 people, we do not have one commercial airline operating out of Ventura County. And what's essential for the future and for job growth and a leadership role of the city of Oxnard is reinvesting in this airport that we have as a regional airport. So one of the key components of getting new businesses to relocate here and to expanding businesses is investing in an airport. And in fact, I worked for many years at BMW of North America. I was actually a language teacher at BMW. And one of the primary reasons they said that they did not locate all of their operations in Oxnard was that the lack of access to an airport. So it's going to be very important that we get that back on track. Oxnard is investing in technology in the future, and we have now a new fiber optic master plan. What you see there to the right is the existing infrastructure that we placed for something called the Intelligent Traffic System, which is fiber optic cable that's running through about 38.5 miles throughout the city of Oxnard. Why is this fiber optic cable important? Because it's going to bring higher speed internet. Right now, we're looking to take that infrastructure. We're looking to capitalize on the fact that of using this existing resource to partner then with the private industry to provide that finishing product of that high-speed internet. And I'm talking about internet that would be a gig. If you can imagine how fast that is, mine runs at home, which is really fast at about 100, but that a gig of internet speed would be closer to 1,000. So it's unimaginable what effect that can have on this local economy. Oxnard is not only making that investment, but it's important that we make that investment countywide. So we also have a very large project that is now in the works. Some of you might know it's off of Rose Avenue in Camino del Sol, and that is the Malhart property, which is just over 100 acres of land. What you see here is a new high school that's going to be built by the Oxnard Union High School District. It's going to be approximately consume 50 acres out of 100 acres, and the remaining part of that development is going to be residential. What I have said in the past, and I'll continue to say in the future, what is so important and such an important component about revitalizing our local economy and investing in it are magnet programs, specifically STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or just STEM, eliminating the arts and just a focus on science and mathematics. Just down the street from this brand new high school that's going to be built is one of the largest medical corridors in Ventura County. Wouldn't it be amazing if there were a medical program, magnet program right there at this brand new high school? And that the Oxnard Union High School District is going to be reaching out to the public and asking them what kinds of programs they'd like to see there. Please, if you see a trustee or if you see anyone affiliated with the Oxnard Union High School District, talk to them about those special programs of revitalizing this community and reinvesting in it. Some of you might know that 3 years ago, under the previous city manager, I had persuaded him and then economic development director to apply for Amazon's HQ2 second headquarters. What you see behind this request for proposal is a lot or a big area there, and that is Sakioka Farms, 430 acres just off of Del Norte Boulevard in the 101. I've had an inordinate focus on this piece of property because when we talk about revitalizing this economy, rebuilding the economy, and reinvesting in the economy, I can't think of anything that is going to yield greater results than Sakioka Farms. So what happened is Oxnard did not get and was not chosen for the headquarters, but the method behind the madness was this will showcase the property to other entities. And in fact, an Amazon distribution center came about directly as a result of that application. And although that did not succeed due to a variety of reasons, the community development director, Mr. Lambert, and Mr. Nguyen got Sakioka Farms, the owner of Sakioka Farms, and got everything back on track. And right now, there are entities that are negotiating with the city of Oxnard. We should have something very exciting. We're hoping by the beginning of September to announce to the public about what exactly is going to go there at Sakioka Farms. And I've always left and ended every one of my presentations with this vision. And this vision, ladies and gentlemen, is about the future of Ventura County. For 5 of the last 5 years in Ventura County, there's been 0 or negative growth. And we got to focus on the economy. We got to focus on job growth, and in particular, higher paying jobs so that our children can afford to stay in Ventura County. Many of you that are listening here today have children that are living at home. I have 2 children that are living at home. One's in college, one just graduated from college. In order for them to stay here in Ventura County, or at least have the possibility to do so, we have to have jobs that are going to pay a sufficient amount of money so they can afford to build a house here. That is that vision. Oxnard is the center of bringing this together, this new leadership role. Oxnard is the largest city in the county. There's no reason, ladies and gentlemen, where we're not going to lead as the largest city. Leadership on the city level, leadership on the county level, bringing businesses together and forging that new rebuild, revitalize, and reinvestment policy for the city. So I am committed to you as business leaders. I'm committed to making sure that these plans come about. And we are right now, as we speak, on the cusp of some very, very exciting developments. So stay tuned. We'll have some great announcements coming in the future. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Katie Casey with the City of Oxnard. We are now going to open this up for questions for the mayor to answer at this time. So if you would like to ask a question, please submit it through the question box on the right-hand side with the GoToWebinar control panel. And I'm going to be fielding those and asking those to the mayor during this presentation. Mr. Mayor, ahead of today's presentation, we received a few questions in advance. One of them has asked, the city has areas that need work and upkeep. Can you have the city manager arrange volunteer efforts for our citizens to come together to clean, paint, plant flowers, etc., to areas that need work?
That's an excellent question. It's a very timely question. As many of you know, in the last fiscal year, and again, the fiscal year calendar begins July 1st, right? So ends June 30th and begins July 1st. So in last year's budget, with the many cuts that the city made, a lot of it had to do with street maintenance. When I say street maintenance, I'm talking about medians, the sides of roadways, we've seen that all over. We've seen weeds, we've seen trash, we've seen all kinds of problems, and also many landscaped areas that the city inherited. And there simply wasn't the money to maintain these areas. We had to make a decision. Are we going to cut public safety, or are we going to cut the landscaping of these areas? And agreed, it needs help. And I've been very focused on that with the city manager. The great thing is working together with neighborhood organizations and just volunteers. And these volunteers, it wasn't at my urging, or it wasn't at city council's urging. These volunteers selflessly picked up the ball, and they are all over the city right now cleaning up these landscaped areas. And in fact, we have an opportunity, which is timely, starting next weekend and meeting in Plaza Park over a 3-day period, where volunteers are going to come together. So you listening right now, if you'd like to be a part of that effort, we'd like for you to come. I'm going to be there, and we're going to go out and take charge and clean some of these areas that have lacked proper maintenance. So thank you very much for that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question we have received is wondering why we are looking to get rid of farm fields.
Okay, so many of you know that there are 58 counties in the state of California, and 2 of the 58 counties have open space protection ordinances. So an ordinance is the local government equivalent of laws. And in Ventura County, there's the SOAR initiative. The SOAR initiative, in essence, to explain it, draws a donut around cities and says to cities, there are 10 cities in Ventura County, you must, cities, grow within the boundaries of that donut. So agricultural land, it will be preserved and is being preserved simply because of the SOAR initiative. There are areas in the city of Oxnard left that are currently under or being used for agriculture that are slated for development. One of them I just mentioned, Sakioka Farms, 430 acres of the last commercial industrial land zoned for development in the city of Oxnard. So that's just off of Del Norte Boulevard. There's a portion of land just off of Hueneme Road in the south end of town called or referred to as South Shore. That land is zoned for development. Teal Club Road, just next to the airport, is also zoned for development. And again, all of these areas right now are currently being used for farmland, but they are slated for development. So outside of those 3 areas that I just named, everything else in terms of open space is protected. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question is, how and when will the county and city overcome a history of stalemates over the Fisherman's Wharf property?
Well, it's going to take new and bold and dynamic leadership. It's going to take a partnership between the developer that currently right now has his option extended, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm just trying to think this through, to the end of 2023, if I'm not mistaken, or 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a developer for the project. He's the one that proposed the project that was turned down. So this developer is someone I've worked with very closely. His name is Tom Tellefson. He has told me he is willing to work with the community. The county right now finally is listening to the fact that the local community needs to be involved in that decision making. We need to get buy-in from the local community on a future project. And it's going to take a lot of leadership on the county and the city level. And I don't want to assign blame to anyone, whether it's the city's fault, it's the county's fault. The bottom line is we need to work together. We need to get a project built at Fisherman's Wharf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question. With the shortfall on the budget cuts, is there a plan to revitalize street maintenance? Examples, repave roadways in industrial areas where there are several large potholes, etc., or a plan to fill some of these throughout the city?
So the city of Oxnard has been embarked upon an aggressive road paving schedule for the last 15 years. And in fact, since I started with government, we've probably invested close to $200 million in the paving of streets and roadways. And let me just say that the main arterials in all cities in the state of California, So let's just say Rice Avenue, Rose Avenue, Gonzales, Ventura Road, all those major thoroughfares, we get money through the federal government to pave those roadways. That local city funds are not devoted to those major arterials. And unfortunately, due to limited federal funds, we get funding for about one major thoroughfare each year. Many of you remember maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Wooley Road was in really bad shape. Wooley Road was all repaved with that federal money that's channeled through VCTC, Ventura County Transportation Commission. When it comes to potholes and road maintenance, we're getting ready to do an overlay on Rice Avenue. But if you have potholes that you've identified that need to be taken care of, my telephone number is 805-340-1922. 340-1922. Text me, give me a specific area. We'll get those potholes filled. And we're looking to devote more and more money to road maintenance. Right now, we've repaved about 70% of all the neighborhoods in the city that needed repaving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question. Besides the homeless shelter you discussed, what other affordable housing goals does the city have?
Well, as many of you know, the city of Oxnard leads the county in providing affordable housing. And just to contextualize this, we have about 55,000 residential units in the city of Oxnard. It's a combination of single family homes, multiple family housing, apartments, et cetera. 55,000 units, approximately 5,500 of the 55,000, or 10%, are in some category of affordability. And it is in a variety of ranges. So we have about 1,800 Section 8 vouchers. It's a federal program, right, that subsidizes rents for individuals that are poor. We have housing at River Park that is deed restricted, meaning the homes were sold to people that fall into various affordable housing categories. City of Oxnard will continue to lead the county when it comes to providing for affordable housing. We have a requirement right now that 10% of all of our projects in the city of Oxnard are going to be affordable, but make no mistake about it, Oxnard cannot be the only community that is providing affordable housing. We have a need countywide. And so Oxnard is stepping up, continues to lead the county in providing affordable housing, but we want a partnership with other cities to do the same. And it's particularly important that we see even more leadership on the county level when it comes to the building of housing and the providing of affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question. In past years, Oxnard had EDCO to work on attracting and retaining business. What is Oxnard's plan going forward to attract and retain businesses to our city?
Well, that has been a primary focus of mine, and that has been a primary focus of, I know, the city council as well as the city manager and our new development services and planning director, community development director. The fact of the matter is this: we need to make sure, and I touched on it a little bit in my presentation, if we have employers here in this city, larger employers, smaller employers, it doesn't matter what it is, we got to make sure that we have that employee pipeline of a trained workforce right here in our community that's going to be able to meet the needs, the employment needs of these employers. And it's important that we focus on how does city government partner, and that's the key here to leadership, is our partnerships. How do we partner with the community college, with Cal State Channel Islands, with Cal Lutheran? How do we partner with these academic institutions and business to get more job training to meet the needs of local businesses? And how do we create an environment in this city that is business friendly? And I'll just end by saying that a big part of my focus has been to establish the one-stop shop. The one-stop shop, we had all of the permitting and all of the business licensing under one roof, but many of those departments weren't communicating effectively with each other. They had, in effect, silos built around themselves. We're breaking down those silos. We're making sure that when somebody comes to the city of Oxnard, that we prioritize you, that we place your business and your entrepreneurship number one as a priority to make sure that we allow more businesses to remain in the city and more businesses to relocate here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question is a follow-up to the Oxnard employee pipeline. How does your Oxnard employee pipeline provide services and opportunities for high school students? And will City Corps be a part of this program?
That's an excellent question. As you might know, City Corps is a premier organization of youth volunteerism. And in some instances, many of those youth are trained. They get job skills directly through City Corps. That was the brainchild of former employees, now retired Efren Gore. And if there's any model that we can say that is city inspired and government inspired, it is the City Corps program. And specifically, it's not only community service, but it's about acquiring job skills, training, the city being directly involved in training the youth of this community, diverting them potentially from antisocial behavior to acquiring those job skills. But it's going to take a lot beyond EDCO and VICITA. It's going to take a lot of leadership. It's going to take the cooperation and building partnerships between county government, city government, and all the city governments, and partnerships with business and these academic institutions. That is going to be the key to rebuilding, reinvesting, and revitalizing Ventura County's economy.
Thank you. The next question. What is being done to improve turnaround time on plan checks for permitting?
Well, here's the first and most direct answer, the one-stop shop. But even though we had a one-stop shop, we're breaking down the barriers to individuals getting a permit in a timely fashion, or individuals, finding a way to make it happen and to get these permits issued, was that we had a staffing problem. And in the last budget, the city council and the city manager engaged in priority-based budgeting, where we cut some departments and we added to others. We had a real deficit of employees in the plan check areas, in planning. We needed more engineers. We needed more plan checkers. We focused on that. We now have a concierge, something that I really pushed, that we have somebody that would be that first contact for businesses when they walk through that door, that would help businesses then when it comes to determining what their needs are and how the city can help them. And also under Mr. Lambert's leadership, we also have an economic development manager and also a project manager that are specifically focused on making this organization run better and more effectively and efficiently.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question. What's happening with the water quality in the harbor?
So we just had a presentation on water quality in the harbor. Some of you might know that the following took place. Several years ago, NRG, one of the largest power provider company in the United States, closed the 5th Street Mandalay Bay Power Station. That power station was slated to close in 2020 because of a law that prohibits once through cooling power plants, meaning that those power plants were located right next to the ocean. They took the ocean water to cool down their systems, but now because of technology, which are stacks of air cooling, the power plants no longer need to be located at the beach. So NRG shut down that plant and prematurely, and one of the things that they had there was a canal system that was connected to the canal systems of the major developments that of the beach community that have and the coastal community that have docks, and they have boats and etc. And so what happened, because that pump system, which was enormous, that pump system had a capacity 10 times what our wastewater treatment plant facility has. That pump, which was turned on about once a month, because this power plant, by the way, was a peaker power plant, meaning it was only utilized when the grid was overtaxed. So about once a month it would be turned on. It would take 24 hours to get it fired up. They would use the energy for a certain amount of time and then 24 hours to shut it down. That's when that system then through the canal system would recirculate the water. Without that circulation, and now that that power plant is closed down, the water is stagnant, and with rising temperatures and warmer weather in the summertime, It produced algae blooming and growth. And what that algae does is it chokes out the oxygen. When it chokes out the oxygen in the water or depletes the oxygen levels in the water, it kills marine life, and it is not a good situation. It not only does it smell, but it turns the water brown. So instead of that, bluish green color, it becomes a brown color. City has prioritized finding solutions to solving this problem, and we're working very closely, I can say, with citizens groups, primarily neighborhood councils and others, to address this problem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next question is around the topic of a regional airport, and the question reads, the director of the Ventura County Department of Airports has indicated that he would be open to moving Oxnard Airport to a model that supports commercial PDEWS, passenger trips per day each way, and therefore grows our local economy with high-paying commercial airline jobs. But he will only do so if the community indicates a desire for the development of the airport. What is the city's role in this conversation?
Well, the city has a very strong role because the only airport that allows commercial service is in the city of Oxnard, and that's the Oxnard Airport. So once again, I had mentioned before, there are two airports there are actually three airports in Ventura County. One is privately owned, that's Santa Paula Airport, but then the two airports are Camarillo and Oxnard. Those were former military bases, Army bases for training for World War II flight training. And when those bases converted from military use to civilian use, there was a provision that was placed at the Camarillo Airport to not allow commercial service. I believe we need to take another look at that. That airport is located right off the freeway, but I'm not committing and saying it has to be in Camarillo. What I'm saying is we have to be open-minded to the fact that if we don't have commercial service in Ventura County at either one of these two airports, or maybe there's a possibility of a joint use agreement with the United States military. Some of you might know there are 26 joint use agreements with the United States military and commercial civilian use throughout the United States of America. One of the closest is in Yuma, Arizona. It's a United States Marine Corps base, and that Marine Corps base, there's a joint use agreement for commercial passenger traffic in and out of that Yuma airport. We need to start thinking outside the box. We've got to have an airport. 850,000 people and no airport. It's going to take a lot of leadership, and it's especially not just city leadership, but county leadership, and businesses need to support that. So prior efforts at attracting airlines, we've come very close. I'm on the airport authority, and we've come very close to attracting new passenger service to the Oxnard Airport. At one point, if I'm not mistaken, there were 4 airlines that operated out of the Oxnard Airport. I once flew with my wife and my daughter from San Francisco to the Oxnard Airport, and it took 42 minutes, if you can imagine that. San Francisco to Oxnard, 42 minutes. We need to bring that back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we are getting close to wrapping up the Q&A portion of the presentation. One last question that we do have is a comment that maybe you could provide additional details on. The Oxnard Young Professionals is looking to put together a group to clean our community. So if other people are interested in doing volunteer cleanups, what would they do?
Well, first of all, we have the opportunity I spoke about next weekend. That's going to be at Plaza Park. I believe it's all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Plaza Park. I got to get a time. I don't know if anyone is aware of time. I'll try to get that time before we end here. But that's an opportunity there. And not only can the young professionals participate in that, but I'm really glad to hear that the young professionals themselves are looking to organize efforts. And so I don't have their telephone number, but I can provide it to you if you call me at 805-340-1922, or you can email me at tim.flynn, Flynn, at oxnard.org. I'll make sure you get that information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And that concludes the Q&A session of our presentation today.
Okay, great.
And we will now turn it back over to our host for this afternoon, Nancy Lindholm.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Katie, for handling all those questions. We certainly appreciate it. There was quite a variety of them, And Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let you know that the Young Professionals is a committee of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce. So anybody that's interested in participating in that can contact us here at the Chamber.
Very well.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to conclude today. Certainly thank all the participants for chiming in and joining us here for the State of the City. I know this is probably trite by now, but I firmly believe that we will get through this pandemic and recession by working together. And by working together, I certainly would like to thank our sponsors today that you can see on the screen once again. And we will be back in a couple weeks with another webinar. So keep tuned into our website for what's coming forward. Thank you all for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, Tim.
Bye. Thank you.